Did you know that nearly 70% of people identify unmet expectations as the primary cause of their relationship struggles? What if there was one simple habit that could bridge this gap? A habit so transformative that it could ease conflicts, build trust, and bring peace to any relationship, whether with a partner, friend, or colleague. Relationships shape nearly every aspect of our lives. They bring joy, comfort, and purpose, but can also lead to pain, misunderstandings, unmet expectations, and unspoken frustrations. Perhaps you've felt the sting of someone letting you down, the frustration of feeling unheard, or noticed a growing distance in a once valued relationship. Often we don't know where things went wrong. We try harder, give more, or demand more, yet the gap between us and others only seems to widen. But what if the solution wasn't about doing more or asking more of others? What if it came down to changing one simple thing about how you approach relationships? Ancient Stoic wisdom offers a powerful answer with a transformative habit. This new habit has the potential to ease conflict, foster understanding, and transform any relationship, starting with how you perceive it. It provides a practical approach to improving how we connect with others. So what is this habit? Stay with me. It's simpler than you think and might just change everything. Before we begin, please subscribe and tap the notification bell so you never miss out on more amazing videos like this. Let's get started. What makes a relationship difficult? When we consider what makes relationships challenging, it's easy to blame external factors. We might point to a partner's lack of communication, a friend's inconsistency, or a colleague's failure to meet deadlines. Beneath the surface of nearly every relational struggle lies a deeper issue: unmet expectations. These are universal, unavoidable, and often invisible until the pain they cause becomes undeniable. How many times have you thought, "They should have known"? Perhaps when your partner didn't pick up on your bad mood, a friend forgot your birthday, or a coworker didn't step in to help during a stressful project. The frustration stems not just from their actions or lack thereof, but from the unspoken belief that they should have done something differently. In romantic relationships, this often manifests as the silent wish for a partner to read your mind. You might think, "If they really loved me, they'd know I needed help right now," or "They should understand why I'm upset without me having to explain." When they don't meet these unspoken standards, it can feel like betrayal, even though they may not have been aware of those expectations. Friendships are no different. Perhaps you've experienced the disappointment of reaching out to a friend during a tough time, only to receive a lukewarm response. You might think, "They should have been more supportive. If the roles were reversed, I'd be there for them." Similarly, in professional settings, expectations can drive frustration. You might feel annoyed when a coworker doesn't meet your standards of efficiency, or when a boss overlooks your hard work. These scenarios are painfully familiar and share a common thread: the gap between what we expect and what actually happens. Why does this happen? Expectations are like invisible scripts we've written for others, assigning them roles, lines, and actions in the play of our lives. The problem is, we rarely share the script with them. They don't know the part they're supposed to play, and even if they did, they might not want or be able to perform it the way we imagined. At its core, this occurs because expectations often feel natural to us. They're shaped by our upbringing, past experiences, and personal values. If you grew up in a family where birthdays were a big deal, you might expect your friends to make a fuss on your special day. If you value punctuality, you might feel disrespected when a coworker is late to a meeting. These expectations seem obvious to you, but to someone else, with a different background, personality, or perspective, they might not even register. There's also a psychological layer to this. Expectations give us a sense of control, allowing us to predict how others will behave, which can feel comforting in an unpredictable world. But when reality doesn't align with those predictions, it creates a sense of dissonance. Suddenly, the world doesn't feel as stable, and that discomfort is often directed at the person who let us down. Holding tightly to expectations is exhausting. It creates constant tension between how things are and how we believe they should be. This gap becomes a breeding ground for resentment, frustration, and disconnection. Think about the last time someone failed to meet your expectations. Maybe your partner forgot an anniversary and you felt ignored. Perhaps a friend didn't respond to your text as quickly as you'd hoped, leaving you feeling unimportant. Or maybe a coworker didn't deliver on a task and you were left to pick up the slack. In those moments, it's not just the unmet expectation that hurts. It's the story we attach to it. When your partner forgets an anniversary, it's not just about the date. It's about what you believe it says about their care for you. When a friend is slow to respond, it's easy to interpret it as a sign that they don't value the friendship as much as you do. These stories amplify the emotional impact, turning a small disappointment into a deep wound. Over time, these emotions accumulate. The resentment you feel toward your partner for not noticing your needs, the frustration you harbor toward a friend for not being there, and the irritation you experience with a coworker for not meeting your standards, all build walls between you and the people in your life. These walls don't just block out others, they isolate you, leaving you feeling lonely and misunderstood. Even worse, the pain caused by unmet expectations often leads to behaviors that further damage relationships. You might withdraw, stop communicating, or lash out in anger, pushing the other person further away and creating a cycle of unmet expectations, hurt feelings, and growing distance. The truth is, everyone has been on both sides of this dynamic. We've all felt the sting of unmet expectations, but we've also failed to meet the expectations of others. Maybe you've been the friend who didn't respond quickly enough, the partner who forgot something important, or the coworker who missed a deadline. It's not that we don't care about the people in our lives. It's that we're all carrying unseen burdens and navigating our own unique challenges. When we hold on to rigid expectations, we overlook this reality. We reduce people to the roles we've assigned them, forgetting that they're complex, flawed individuals just like us. This isn't about blaming ourselves or others for the pain caused by unmet expectations. It's about recognizing the pattern and understanding why it happens. When we do, we can begin to let go of the scripts, the stories, and the emotional toll they create. That's where the power of Stoic wisdom comes in. By detaching from unrealistic expectations, we open the door to more authentic, compassionate, and fulfilling relationships. Letting go isn't easy, but it's worth it. The first step is seeing the problem for what it is, a habit of holding others to standards they never agreed to meet. Once we do that, we can start freeing ourselves from the tension and frustration those expectations bring, creating space for deeper connection and understanding. And that's a transformation worth striving for. The habit. Detach from unrealistic expectations at its core. The Stoic principle of detachment isn't about indifference. It's not about shutting yourself off emotionally or ceasing to care about the people in your life. Instead, detachment is about letting go of the things you cannot control, especially the behavior of others. This idea, often repeated in the writings of Stoic philosophers like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, encourages us to focus on what is firmly within our grasp, our own thoughts, actions, and choices. When applied to relationships, this concept is transformative. Detaching from unrealistic expectations means shifting your perspective from "what should they do" to "what can I control?" It's a quiet but powerful mindset shift that removes the heavy burden of constantly trying to predict, influence, or manage how others behave. Instead of expecting others to fulfill the roles you've imagined for them, you begin to accept them as they are, flawed humans navigating their own inner worlds. Just as you are, letting go of unrealistic expectations doesn't mean lowering your standards or accepting bad treatment. Boundaries still matter, and respect remains essential in healthy relationships. However, this habit invites you to release the unnecessary tension of demanding that others meet every expectation you've silently created for them. It's about freeing yourself from the pain that comes from holding on to control you never truly had. The wisdom of detaching from unrealistic expectations lies in its simplicity. By focusing on what you can control, your own actions and reactions, you reduce the emotional turbulence caused by outside factors. Think about how often frustration arises in relationships because we believe someone should act a certain way. These shoulds are rooted in our internal scripts, not in reality. When a partner doesn't respond with the enthusiasm we hoped for, when a friend cancels plans at the last minute, or when a coworker delivers work that doesn't meet our standards, we interpret these moments through the lens of our expectations. The result? Resentment, disappointment, and unnecessary conflict. Detaching from these expectations allows us to see situations more clearly. Instead of dwelling on what someone should have done, we can focus on understanding the situation for what it is. Perhaps your partner was distracted by their own stress, your friend needed rest, or your coworker did their best within the time they had. By removing the filter of expectations, we open ourselves to empathy and understanding. This habit also fosters a deeper sense of freedom. When you stop tying your emotional well-being to how others behave, you reclaim your peace. No longer are your happiness and contentment dependent on whether others meet your silent standards. Instead, you become anchored in your own values and choices, creating a more stable foundation for your relationships. Epictetus said it best. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. In relationships, this means recognizing that you can't control how others show up, but you can control how you choose to respond. Detaching from unrealistic expectations is a practice, not a switch you can flip overnight. It requires mindfulness, patience, and a willingness to confront your own thought patterns. You can start by becoming aware of the expectations you hold in your relationships. These are often unspoken and automatic, but with practice, you can bring them to light. Ask yourself, what am I expecting from this person right now? Is this expectation realistic or fair? Have I communicated this expectation clearly, or am I assuming they should know? For example, if you find yourself frustrated because a friend didn't call you on your birthday, pause and examine your thoughts. Did you assume they'd remember? Did you express that the day was important to you? By challenging your assumptions, you create space for understanding instead of resentment. Next, try to communicate openly. Many expectations remain unmet simply because they are unspoken. We often expect others to intuitively understand what we need, but this is rarely realistic. Clear, open communication can bridge the gap between your desires and others' actions. Instead of thinking, they should know I need help, try saying, I'm feeling overwhelmed. Could you support me with this? Instead of assuming a friend understands how much a particular event means to you, express it directly. It would mean a lot if you could be there. When you communicate your needs, you give others the opportunity to meet them. If they choose not to, you can respond based on their actions, not your unspoken expectations. Also, learn to focus on your values and actions. Shift your energy from trying to control others to living in alignment with your own values. For instance, if generosity is important to you, give freely without expecting something in return. If honesty matters, speak your truth, even if others don't reciprocate immediately. By focusing on who you want to be, you remove the need for others to validate your choices. The power of detaching from expectations isn't just philosophical, it's supported by psychology. Research shows that our brains are wired to form expectations as a way of making sense of the world. However, these expectations can lead to cognitive distortions, where we interpret situations in a way that reinforces negative emotions. One common distortion is mind reading, where we assume others should know what we want without us having to say it. Another is personalization, where we take others' actions or inactions as a reflection of their feelings toward us. Both distortions fuel frustration in relationships. Additionally, the negativity bias, a tendency to focus on what's wrong rather than what's right, can increase the emotional impact of unmet expectations. When someone doesn't meet our standards, we're more likely to dwell on their perceived shortcomings than to appreciate their efforts. Detachment helps counteract these tendencies by focusing on what we can control: our thoughts, communication, and actions. This reduces the influence of cognitive distortions and negativity bias, allowing us to approach relationships with greater clarity and emotional resilience. Detaching from unrealistic expectations isn't about giving up on meaningful relationships. It's about embracing them as they are. It's about releasing the scripts we've written for others and allowing people to show up authentically, flaws and all. When we stop demanding perfection from those around us, we create space for genuine connection. We become more patient, more empathetic, and more present. In letting go of control, we discover a freedom and peace that no amount of external validation can provide. As the Stoics remind us, the only thing we truly control is ourselves. And when we master that, we unlock the potential for healthier, more fulfilling relationships, not because others change, but because we do. Let me share the story of Sarah, a woman who discovered the power of letting go of unrealistic expectations, forever transforming her relationship with her father. Sarah grew up with an image of what a father should be. She believed a father should be emotionally available, protective, and expressive with his love. But her reality was starkly different. Her father, James, was quiet and distant. He worked tirelessly to provide for the family but rarely expressed affection. Birthdays passed without hugs or heartfelt words, and family dinners often ended in silence. As Sarah grew older, this distance began to weigh on her. She interpreted his lack of warmth as indifference, and his silence as a lack of love. Each unmet expectation added another layer of frustration and sadness. She found herself asking questions like, why can't he be the father I need? Why doesn't he care enough to show it? The resentment built until every interaction felt strained. When Sarah turned 30, the tension hit a breaking point. After her father forgot her birthday yet again, she lashed out during a family gathering. Why don't you ever care? Why can't you be the kind of dad who shows up? Her voice trembled with years of pent-up anger. James looked stunned, then hurt. He didn't respond, retreating into the silence that had always defined their relationship. That night, Sarah broke down. Her anger had reached its peak, yet she felt emptier than ever. She couldn't understand why her father's indifference affected her so deeply. In her search for answers, she stumbled upon a book on Stoic philosophy. One line struck her. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Sarah began to question whether her expectations, rather than her father's behavior, were the real source of her pain. She thought about how she'd constructed an image of what a father should be, but had never stopped to consider who her father actually was. The breakthrough came during a quiet evening as Sarah journaled about her frustrations. She wrote, "What am I expecting from my dad and why?" She realized she had been holding on to an idealized version of a father, shaped by movies, books, and stories from friends. But James wasn't a character in a script she'd written. He was a real person with his own story. He'd grown up in a household where emotions were rarely shared, where love was expressed through actions rather than words. Providing for his family was his way of showing care, even if it didn't align with the vision Sarah had created. For the first time, Sarah saw her father not through the lens of her expectations, but as a human being. She thought about his long hours at work, the sacrifices he'd made, and the quiet ways he'd always been there, fixing her car when it broke down, ensuring she had everything she needed for school, and even sitting with her silently during difficult times. She realized that James did care deeply. He just didn't express it in the way she had always imagined. The next time Sarah saw her father, she approached him with a new perspective. Instead of expecting a warm embrace or an apology for the years of silence, she decided to focus on what she could control, her actions and her mindset. She started small, asking him about his day and genuinely listening to his responses. She noticed that while he didn't always respond with enthusiasm, there was a quiet warmth in the way he answered. Over time, Sarah began to express her gratitude for the things he did. "Thanks for fixing my car," she'd say, or, "I appreciate you checking in about my job." These moments, though simple, started to bridge the gap between them. One day, as they sat together watching a football game, James turned to her and said, "I don't say it enough, but I'm proud of you." It was a small sentence, but it carried the weight of years of unspoken love. For Sarah, it was a turning point, not because her father had suddenly changed, but because she had. By letting go of the expectation that he should be someone different, she created space for their relationship to grow authentically. This change didn't just improve Sarah's relationship with her father, It transformed how she approached all her connections. She realized how often she held others to invisible standards, expecting friends to always be available, partners to always know what she needed without asking, or colleagues to meet her, exacting expectations without room for error. She started applying the same mindset in these relationships. When a friend forgot to text her back, she reminded herself that their worth wasn't defined by a single missed message. When her partner didn't immediately understand her feelings, she communicated openly rather than stewing in silent resentment. Each time she released an unrealistic expectation, she felt lighter. Relationships that once felt strained began to thrive as she focused on what she could control: her actions, her words, and her perspective. Sarah's story is a powerful example of how detaching from unrealistic expectations can transform not just one relationship, but the way we connect with everyone in our lives. By letting go of the scripts we've written for others, we allow them to show up as they are: flawed, human, and worthy of love. As Sarah discovered, the key to stronger relationships isn't about forcing others to change. It's about changing how we see them. When we release the need for control, we create space for understanding, acceptance, and genuine connection. And as the Stoics teach, when we master ourselves, our thoughts, actions, and expectations, we unlock the freedom to love others as they are, not as we wish them to be. Relationships are among the most rewarding and challenging parts of life. They have the power to fill us with joy, connection, and belonging, but they can also bring pain, frustration, and misunderstandings. At the heart of much of this struggle lies one core issue: unrealistic expectations. We build invisible standards for the people in our lives, expecting partners to anticipate our needs, friends to show up in specific ways, or colleagues to always meet our personal benchmarks. These expectations, often unspoken, set us up for disappointment and strain the very relationships we seek to strengthen. Now it's your turn. Take a moment to reflect on your relationships. Are there expectations you're holding on to that might be causing unnecessary frustration or disappointment? The next time you find yourself upset or hurt, pause and ask, am I expecting something that isn't realistic or hasn't been communicated? This habit, detaching from unrealistic expectations, isn't about perfection or instant transformation. It's about making small, intentional shifts in how you approach your relationships. Each time you let go of an expectation you can't control, you create space for understanding, connection, and growth. We'd love to hear how this habit works for you.
Have you tried letting go of an expectation? Did it change the way you saw someone or improved your relationship? Share your experiences in the comments below. You might inspire someone else on their journey. And if you're ready to go deeper
into Stoic principles and how they can improve your life, check out our next video. Growth takes time, but the results are worth it.